Many thanks, Jean, and good afternoon to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, 2018 is a very important year, not only for Business Europe. Congratulations on your 60th anniversary, but also for the European Union. As President Tusk told you this morning, 2018 should be a year where the EU makes progress on many fronts, deepening the economic and monetary union, building a European defense in coherence with our allies, modernizing the rules for the digital single market, and addressing Europe's social dimensions more strongly, to name but a few. 2018 is also the year when we need to conclude the negotiations with the United Kingdom on its orderly withdrawal and also, at the same time, define the framework for our future relationship. The outcome will have an impact on millions of citizens and many, many of your businesses. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to speak to you at the end of your day. Thank you, Madam President, dear Emma. Thank you, dear Marcus, for the invitation to continue our dialogue about Brexit. In June 2016, the British people, majority of the British people, made a choice to leave the EU. We regret this decision, but we respect it. And now we have to implement it. Our responsibility is to make sure that the UK's withdrawal is orderly. Because a disorderly withdrawal would be a very bad outcome. And I recommend that everyone on both sides measures the consequences of a no deal. So we have worked on this orderly withdrawal, step by step, since the opening of negotiations in June last year. In December, we reached agreement on our three priorities: citizens' rights, the need to avoid our border, the island of Ireland, and the financial settlement. We are now in the second stage of the negotiations, and we have three tasks to pursue in parallel. And let me illustrate this with a slide, my first slide. First, we need to draft the withdrawal agreement, which should deal with all consequences of the UK's departure. And this is the yellow track on top. For business, important separation issues include customs procedures, the movement of goods, intellectual property, public procurement, data protection, and Euratom. Yesterday, as you know, the European Commission presented a draft text, a complete draft text. We will now discuss it with Member States in close coordination with the European Parliament. And we needed to publish this draft because we have to move forward. In 13 months, the United Kingdom will leave the European Union. It's time to start negotiating on the basis of a legal text. On the sensitive issue of Northern Ireland, in particular, the moment has come to work on operative solutions to a problem arising from the UK's decision to leave the EU, leave the single market, to leave the customs union. I have said it yesterday, and I am repeating it today. If the UK has better ideas on how to avoid a hard border while preserving the integrity of the single market, we are ready to look at them in a very constructive way. We are not excluding any of the three options we jointly agreed in December on Ireland and Northern Ireland, and I expect the UK to do the same. The second task, which will be part of our withdrawal agreement, is to negotiate the transition period. The UK has requested this transition, and that is the orange track, second line. Under our proposal, UK citizens, businesses, universities, farmers, and regions will continue to have the same rights and the same obligations as they have today up until the end of 2020. But the UK will no longer take part in the EU decision-making process, as it will have left the Union in accordance with its own decision. Finally, once the European Council, under the authority of Donald Tusk, has given us a mandate, we will be able to start discussing with the UK the framework for our future relationship, and that is a green track at the bottom. In order to start on this third task, we'll need to know what the UK vision is, not only on trade, which is our main topic today, but also on security, defense, and foreign policy, justice and home affairs, and some other sectors like aviation. This is what the EU leaders asked the UK in December. In this context, I am looking forward for the Theresa May speech tomorrow, and I hope it will help us move the negotiation forward by setting out our vision of the future relationship. My aim today is not to speculate or prejudge the Prime Minister's proposals. I simply want to repeat that any vision on the future must take into account the fact that the EU cannot and will not compromise on its founding principles. We have learned that the UK wants to leave the single market, wants to leave the customs union, and it also wants to leave our common supervision and enforcement structures. So, as the new slide shows, if I may ask to the second slide, it's very famous now. The UK is closing the door on itself, one by one, and the only possible model that remains is that of the free trade agreement, as we did recently with Canada, we are dealing with Japan or Korea. It should be our common goal to make such a free trade agreement ambitious. All of the models here, ladies and gentlemen, all of the models remain available as long as the UK is willing to accept the balance between rights and obligations. We need to tell the truth. That means making a number of difficult but necessary choices, and let me now mention three of these choices. Number one, does the UK want to regain full decision-making autonomy, or does it want to retain the advantages of the single market? So far, we have learned that the UK wants to regain its decision-making autonomy. We respect this, as the UK should respect our own decision-making autonomy. This inevitably entails a series of consequences. The UK government wants to end the free movement of people, which is indivisible from the other freedoms, such as the free movement of goods and services. It has therefore indicated its intention to leave the single market. Take the case of, just one example, of personal data. All economic sectors work with personal data, ranging from the financial sector to the health industry or the transport sector. In the single market, we have a modern and very detailed regulatory framework that allows for the free movement of personal data. This facilitates the collection and exchange of such data. It also provides for supervisory mechanism overseen by the Court of Justice of the European Union. The UK is going to leave this regulatory framework. It is its choice. In the future, the transfer of personal data from the EU to the United Kingdom will be subject to strict rules, and these rules are designed to protect a fundamental right. Allow me, on this point, to be very precise. The transfer of personal data to the UK will only be possible if the UK provides for adequate safeguards. One example, to ensure that adequate safeguards are in place, is an EU adequacy decision. This is an autonomous EU decision. There can be no system of mutual recognition of standards when it comes to the exchange and protection of such data. The same rule goes for standards underpinning free movement of products and services. In the absence of a common discipline, in the absence of EU law that can override national law, in the absence of common supervision and a common court, there can be no mutual recognition of standards. The single market allows for fluid economic exchanges because it is a living system that we adapt permanently. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Chair, the second difficult choice is linked to the ability to negotiate free trade agreements. And the second question is this one. Does the UK want to have complete freedom to decide its trade policy, or does it want to continue to benefit from a comprehensive customs union? The UK government wishes to regain its autonomy in terms of negotiating international agreements. It has indicated its intention to leave the customs union. And this choice has consequences. Being outside of the customs union always involves customs procedures and checks. For example, to ensure compliance with preferential rules of origin, which is a very key point for industry and services. Now, as I said, it is always possible to choose a more ambitious model and stay in a customs union with the European Union. But it would imply balance of rights and obligations. You can, looking at these stairs, you can always go up and goes down. Huh? Goes down and goes up. In the customs union, the UK would apply the same external tariffs as the EU. This would involve fewer border controls between the UK and the EU than outside of a customs union. For example, we will not have to check the rules of origin between us. But it should be well understood. Even in a customs union, a country which is outside of the single market always faces border checks to ensure compliance with the European standards, and this is the case today, for instance, with Turkey. As the President Donald Tusk clearly said this morning at this podium, only the combination of the internal market and the customs union makes frictionless trade possible. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a third choice that will shape our future economic relationship. And it is also a third question. Does the UK want to move away from or to stay close from the European regulatory model? This is an important choice. Underlying the European regulatory framework are key societal choices that we hold dear: our social market economy, our food safety, effective financial regulation, and a precautionary approach to environmental and public health risks. For an ambitious economic partnership, we will need to find common ground on the rules that apply to social and environmental matters, to consumer protection, and to competition. Take the aviation sector as one example, just one example. What would EU airlines say if UK companies could operate with an EU license within the single market? They would ask several questions. Are those companies bound by the same rules on CO2 emissions? Do they have the same rules on working time for cabin crews? The same professional qualifications for pilots? The same compensation schemes for passengers in the event of delays or cancellations? The same rules on competition and state aid? Mrs. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, these questions are not only economic. They are first economic, as far as the level playing field is concerned. But they are also political. Why? Because I just want to repeat, that the answer or all these questions about the level playing field will be key to the ratification of any future deal with UK in each national parliament, and even in certain countries, regional parliament. And I think we have to be very careful about the political conditions of the ratifications of any future deal on the future relation with UK, because any of these future deal will be a mixed treaty or mixed agreement, contrary to the Brexit treaty, and will require not only the ratification of the European Council, the Council of Ministers, not only the ratification of the European Parliament, but also the ratification of each of the 27 national parliaments by unanimity. The reason why I take the time in each of my visits, in each capital, tomorrow in Copenhagen, for instance, to meet not only the government, but also the trade unions, the business community, and the national parliament. Because I want to succeed on this stage only, the next to the third stage, and to prepare it. Ladies and gentlemen, not one of the choices I've mentioned is easy. And I recognize the political temptation to avoid making a choice or to downplay the cost of Brexit, or indeed to pretend that the UK could obtain a free trade deal with the EU with all the benefits of the single market without the obligations. Abandoning such ideas will enable us to begin building an ambitious future partnership based on a foundation of realism and in the interest of our citizens and our businesses. And this is my objective. There are also choices, if I may say, to be made on the EU side. The 27 member states wish to minimize the negative impact of Brexit on the European Union, and so does business. But we are all fully aware that the economic and political benefits of the single market, of the custom unions, and of staying together in the EU are far bigger than any possible cost of Brexit. Since December, the EU has done extensive preparatory work on how to manage the negative impact of Brexit and how to exploring avenues for the future relationship in many sectors. You will find all details on our website. You, ladies and gentlemen, as business leaders, have choices to make in a context of uncertainty. The UK will leave the EU on the 29th of March 2019. That is the only certainty we have at this stage. It is therefore important that all businesses analyze their exposure to the UK and are ready to adapt their logistics, supply chains, and contracts. Of course, the transition period currently under negotiation would give you more time to adapt. However, I just want to recall that certainty about the transition will only come at the end of the process with the ratification of the withdrawal agreement by both sides, probably early next year. So, let me conclude now, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chair. I understand the concerns about Brexit. They are my concerns. But we must not lose sight of the key point: single market is what makes our businesses in Europe strong. It will still be a market of 440 million customers and 22 million businesses after the UK leaves. A market that might not be perfect yet, I know that quite well, but that is a point of attraction for the world. And the very strong unity that we have forged at 27 during these negotiations must also be used positively to develop the single market. This is what the European Commission and its President Jean-Claude Juncker is pushing for. By strengthening the competitiveness and social cohesion of each our country, the Union at 27, by continuing to invest in our SMEs, projects, research, innovation and technology, education. This is the aim of the Juncker plan. By building alongside the banking union a true capital markets union, and by continuing to build this global Europe, which is preparing to offer our businesses new opportunities to export to Japan, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, for citizens, and also for you, for your businesses, for each of our country, my conviction is clear: the future of our union is much more important than the Brexit. Thank you very much.